Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Sumbrum. I'm the Artistic Director at Dance Cleveland, and today I am joined by Mr. Alonzo King himself, founder, choreographer, and Artistic Director of Alonzo King Line Ballet. Thank you, Alonzo, for joining us today.
It's a wonderful to be here, Sarah. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So it's been over 10 years since Dance Cleveland had Lines Ballet here in Cleveland, Ohio, and you guys happen to be my favorite company, so I'm a bit biased personally. But we are so excited to see Deep River here. The last time you were in Cleveland, we had Scheherazade, which was absolutely stunning. And I was just watching some video of Deep River this week, and it really just gave me like the shivers at how absolutely stunning it is, even on video. So in person, it's going to be phenomenal. I wanted to just ask a few questions to give our viewers some background on the company and background on you. So if we want to start there, tell us about your beginnings in dance. What influenced you to become a choreographer and be drawn to dance, even from a young child?
I think for me, I was moving all the time, and my mother was a dancer. So watching her, I was mesmerized. And moving before I began my formal education was like stepping into a personal world that made the outer world dim a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very soothing and adventurous. And so I felt very fortunate that I was looking inward and had a personal relationship with what I saw as movement. And I loved entering that world. And there was a point where at the end of high school, I had to make a big decision, and I had a lot of scholarships to universities. But what really had impressed me the most, because I was interested in many, many things, but dance was who I chose to marry.
Mm-hmm. And what, you know, well, what did you end up doing in terms of your scholastics? I mean, like you said, you had a lot of different colleges and universities that given you offers. Can you tell us a little bit more about your schooling and that side of things for dance?
Well, I was very fortunate in that I went to School of American Ballet Theater, Joffrey, Harkness, all on scholarship and stipend.
Wow.
Um, and so I had the best of training, um, and that gave me a great foundation. When I was young, about 17 or 18, Mr. Ailey asked me to join his company, um, but I didn't because I really wanted to go deep into ballet. But I think that my training was also, I think one of the interesting things about the training is there were some brilliant teachers, but more than that were the rooms that I was in surrounded by dancers who were at a very high level, who were incredibly concentrated and ambitious. And that environment alone was uplifting and brought clarity about the kind of energy required and how to do things. Environment is very, very powerful. And so being in those kinds of environments where you had the top dancers from all over the world being in one room
Mhm.
was inspiring.
Yeah. So let's fast forward. So obviously you had some amazing dance training. You created your own company, and your work is always very collaborative, with other artists, musicians. How do you select the musicians that you want to work with to create your scores?
Well, Sarah, I think that if you want to collaborate, you want the best of any field, whether it's a scientist, whether it's a farmer, and I really do mean that, someone in agriculture, whether it's because all of making and doing is really music and movement. I mean, when you look at land, when you're in a plane and you look and you see how it's plowed, how it's organized, how we cut things in squares, it's all movement. It's all, when people call it, when you see cornrows in, plaited into someone's hair, you see that same thing on the ground, through crops. And so everything is like something. And so that interrelating is a brilliant thing that happens. If I go to a visionary scientist and we talk about what we do, we will agree that we're doing the same thing.
Just in different ways.
Just in different ways. And you'll find out whatever discipline you're in, it's how the person thinks. And when they can see the oneness or the similarity, you're drawn together. But also, before you work with the musician and you're listening to his music, they've also looked at your work. You check each other's work out, and that tells so many things. Just what kind of work has this artist produced? And are they easy to get along with?
That's a big part of it, right? So when we look at Deep River, of course, is the piece that we're going to be having here in Cleveland, March 11th and 12th. And that piece, specifically, you've worked with Jason Moran, the jazz pianist and composer. You worked with Lisa Fischer, the beautiful Grammy Award-winning vocalist. But when I watched the piece, there's also other musical selections that you've made throughout the work. Yeah. Everything from the Jewish mourners Kaddish at the very beginning, and then in the very end, of course, we have some of the Christian spirituals. Can you tell me a little bit about that specific piece and the musical selections that you made for this work and what it means for the work?
I think that we are in a very difficult time. And there is some pointing to the light that needs to be addressed. Because when we see darkness, darkness is telling us we don't want to add to darkness. The antidote, you can't beat darkness with a stick. You have to open the door to light. And so you want to bring light into people's lives so that there is hope, and to remind people that darkness, even though this is one of the most difficult times, it's not new. We have overcome it before, and we will continue to overcome it because light is stronger than darkness. And so that verity right there is enough to say, yes. It's a call to action, because if there is a persistent darkness and you see it and you know that it's wrong, you know that it's harmful, you have to examine yourself and say, do I have any trace of it in myself? Any of that despicable trait? And I have to remove it from me first before I point my index at anyone else. It's a job that has to be cleansing.
And I got a sense almost of like grieving throughout the piece almost. I mean, I know you're talking about like a darkness, right? So maybe this is just the way that some of us interpreted the work when we saw it on film, but there was a sense of grieving. And I wondered if there was any truth in that, or if that was just maybe something that we collected from the piece. But
I think that there's coupled with both of those throughout the whole work, there's a lament and then there's a rejoicing. There is darkness and then there's the struggle to overcome it. I think that they're all woven throughout that work. The Kaddish is talking it's a situation, from that Aramaic in the Middle Ages, where it's saying sorrow happens, but we have a loving God who has given us so much But yes, sorrow happens and there's a reason for it, believe it or not.
Mhm.
Trial and suffering come, but they have a purpose. And then the Negro spirituals, Deep River and the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, they're speaking to aspiration,
Mhm.
and that through every trial there is another door open, and then there's another trial, and then there's another door open. Then on planet Earth there's a constant opponent. That's
Mhm.
just part of it,
It's not
and
always easy.
not always easy.
Yes.
But the beautiful thing is that we humans have one thing in common across the board. We want to escape pain and suffering, and we want some joy that never goes stale.
Mhm. And I
That's a
think your piece does that. I mean, I think watching the piece, you definitely get that sense of you feel the grief, you feel the hard parts and the lows, but you also feel that joy. In fact, there's a section that has laughter throughout
yeah.
it. I wonder, can you tell me a little bit about that particular section?
No.
No? Okay, we'll let the audience take that into their own. Um,
That's right. As they should.
yes. So, all right, we'll shift gears a little bit. I have a question I've been asking all of our artistic directors this year. And this question is very simple, but also not simple at all. It's why dance? We've been asking this a lot. And, why is it that dance is important in our society as an art form, as something for people to experience? And why should dance be valued? What is the significance that dance brings to our world?
Dance is life. You know, the the principal expression of life is movement.
Mm-hmm.
The heart is beating, breath in is coming out of the lungs and into the lungs. Blood is running through the veins. It's movement. In the Big Bang Theory, bam, vibration and sound, they work together. You cannot make music without moving something, either blowing through it, using your fingers,
Mm-hmm.
hitting it. It's movement, and sound is all creation. There are sounds that humans can't even hear, but they're happening all the time. There is movement that we can't even see, but it is happening. Babies can see other worlds that we no longer can see. And a lot of children, before they become self-conscious, they are privy to other levels of existence. And so my point is, everything is movement and sound. You
Mm-hmm.
can't get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is movement and sound. So the planets, moons, suns, and stars, everything is dancing. War, whether we're being evil to each other or we're loving and being kind and nurturing, it's all movement. Interestingly, everything begins with thought. Thought creates our behavior, and behavior is movement. How do you move in the world? So it's inescapable.
Well, so tell me, what do you hope, this will be my last question, what do you hope that audiences will take away with them as they move out of the theater?
Well, that's something I never I find that the people sitting in those seats are creators as well, and they have to make their own decisions about their experience. But
Mhm.
what I would say is that it's important to feel.
Mhm.
It's important, even though there's language and there's clarity and there's ideas, it's important to sometimes not try to intellectually figure it out, but
Mhm.
to experience it, to let go, and allow your heart to feel what you're experiencing.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so ready to see the work. I know a lot of our Cleveland audience members are, and we hope to see you there.
All right, Sarah, thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Lazo. Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye-bye.